Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sasquatch Theory. On this episode, I want to talk about the strange experiences that I had down at the killing fields for the 2025 whitetail rifle season. I went down to David's place at the killing fields here in Missouri to do a little deer hunting, and we had a series of strange events, and that seems to be typical when I stay out there for a long time. There's not a bunch of things that happen just back to back, but as things progress over time, you look back and you realize, man, I had a lot of strange experiences. But starting off on opening day, David took me on the side by side up the ridge, pretty close to the campground, bordering the conservation area. And as I'm sitting there in my hunting saddle, I saw a doe run across the trail. I just saw her tail flipped up. I'm not sure if she saw me move or if she was just moving through the area, but she ended up stopping across the clearing. She kind of looked in my direction. I didn't really think too much of it, but right before that happened, I heard a loud wood knock coming from the conservation area, and I thought, man, that's strange. It really doesn't sound like a woodpecker. Maybe it is. Maybe it is Sasquatch, but I didn't see the creature do a wood knock. But when I heard the wood knock, David was heading towards the campground. He was going up the ridge, and he was going to pick up his granddaughter so his son can go hunting and bring her back down to the house. But I heard David, he went up by the campground, he bypassed the campground and continued going back towards his house. And I thought, man, that's strange. He never stopped. I don't know if he picked up his granddaughter or not. That was kind of weird. And later on, I spoke with David, and he said, I saw something strange up there by the campground. I guess on his way to pick up the granddaughter, he noticed these lights moving down the ridge, and he described them like car lights, and they were just descending down the ridge. So he pursued them, and he thought it was strange because there was no noise from a vehicle. There's no cars that could possibly be back there. It's way too rugged, and it's deer season. But he noticed there wasn't any brake lights, so he was just completely confused as to what he was following. He said the lights went down the ridge, he followed them for a good ways, and then they just disappeared. And then I heard him come back up and stop at the campground and then make his way back down. But I told him, I said, hey David, before that happened, right before that happened, I heard a loud wood knock. And maybe it's connected, maybe it's not. On that ridge, we experience a lot of orb phenomenon. There's a lot of strange things taking place there, a lot of Bigfoot activity, and it's really cool to see the lights. I mean, it's just like a miniature version of the Brown Mountain lights that take place in North Carolina. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty comparable to the Linville Fall, the Wiseman Peak area where you can see Brown Mountain, and I've witnessed it myself. It just looks like Christmas lights turning on and off, and they're different colors. Some of them are dancing around and morphing into different shapes. It's pretty strange. There was actually an episode on the X-Files about the Brown Mountain lights.
Be quiet, guys. Good. No.
But it's a phenomenon that's been going on for a long time, and scientists have come up with piddly theories that don't really line up with what's actually going on. And they have a lot of people convinced that their theories are fact, and I think they talk about water causing friction on the rocks, causing the orb phenomenon, some BS like that. But anyways, the events that transpired after the lights and the wood knock were pretty strange. I began to hunt down by the killing field, and I was bordering the conservation area. I was at the very far end of the killing field, and as I'm sitting up there on my hunting saddle, I have my harness on, connected to the lineman rope, and I'm tethered to the tree. I'm just sitting there trying to stay warm, and I'm observing the field. All of a sudden I smell this horrible smell. It smelled like a skunk mixed with sewage and rotting flesh. And I tried to find the source of the smell. I was looking around and I didn't see a skunk. I didn't see any dead animals, and I just thought, man, this is strange. I don't know what is creating the smell, but it begins to become very overpowering and a little disturbing. I'm not sure what it is, what's going on, and I was just kind of baffled. So I just kind of wrote it off, didn't think too much of it, and it's hard to know the order of all the events that took place, and throughout the time that I was there, I kind of lost track of the days, the time. But the next strange thing that occurred was I was in that same spot, and in the center of the field, about, I would say 30, 40 feet up, it just sounded like a big metal door just slammed shut. Boom. I thought, man, that's strange. The entire time that I've been here, I have not been able to hear David up at his place. You can't hear his house from that particular spot, and I never once heard him closing doors, talking, anything like that. And yeah, it just sounded like a big metal door that just slammed shut, which was very strange. The next strange thing that happened was in that same spot. I began to hear chattering. It just sounded like two people, two males chattering back and forth, which David's son was up at the campground. He was up there with a friend, but the entire time I was there, I could not hear them. I never heard them when they turned on their side-by-side and came in and out of the area. I could never hear them talking, but it just sounded like two males talking back and forth, like just back and forth. And it didn't sound like it was coming from up there. It sounded like it was closer to me on the bottom part of the ridge, close to the killing field. And I just sat there trying to listen, trying to make out the words that were being said, but it just sounded like a foreign language, and it was definitely strange. The next strange thing that happened was I was at the camper, and the camper was right down the hill from David's place by his garage. And David came to pick me up on the side-by-side, and we're just sitting there talking back and forth, and David's sitting in his side-by-side, and we're just chatting away, and he looks over and he pulls out this bird out of the cup holder, and it looks like a bird that just died and landed in his cup holder. It wasn't there before. It was definitely strange. And Sasquatch are known to leave dead animals as gifts for people. And I don't know if it's a gift. I don't personally consider it a gift. The Bigfoot community calls them gifts. I consider it a message. And I feel like they were telling David, hey, you have this hunter back here. We've been watching him, and we're keeping an eye on you. I feel like it's confirmation, and it's their way of communicating with people without revealing themselves physically. And yeah, we were both baffled, like, how the heck did that get there? What the heck? And that happened on the last trip in Minnesota when I was up there with Chris. Like, he pulled out this rock. It looked like a perfectly round, smooth granite rock. I can't remember what kind of rock it was. He looked it up, but he was just like, how did that get in my pocket? And I didn't really think too much of it. It didn't happen to me, so I wasn't like blown away, but I believe him because of his reaction. Like, he had no idea how that stone got in his pocket. Later on, he put a magnet on it, and the magnet would just completely stick to it. I feel like maybe that was a gift to him, or maybe it was the little people, because that's a big thing in the North Woods. But I've experienced it myself in my own personal research areas. I'll be walking down a trail through the woods, going to my sacred area where I interact with the Sasquatch, and there will be like a dead mole right there in the center of the trail, or a dead squirrel, or a blue jay, or a hawk feather, a rock, whatever it may be, a mushroom, and it wasn't there before. Like, I'm always going to these areas because I'm leaving like items, food, or just sitting there looking for structures or anything that's out of place. And it's strange. It's almost like they intentionally put it there to let you know that they are watching you and they know that you've been in the area. So a lot of times when you're in the woods and you say, I didn't see anything, I didn't experience anything, that doesn't mean that they didn't see you. And it's pretty cool. Another strange thing was David and I, we were coming back to his house on the side-by-side. David was looking down as he parked the side-by-side. And when I looked up, I saw a black figure run across the trail in his backyard. And whatever it was fast. And it was jet black. And I've seen it before. On the last trip, I saw this same black figure. It's jet black, coal black. And I didn't say anything the last time. I was with a guy named Jim, and we were exploring that ridge where all the strange activity is that drops down to the killing fields, and I saw this black figure do this behind a tree. And it was like one of those moments where you rub your eyes, you think you got like a floater, or your brain flickered, and you don't think that you saw what you just saw. And I didn't say anything to Jim because it happened so fast, and I was like, I don't want to be that guy that says Bigfoot, Bigfoot, Bigfoot everywhere he goes. But it was strange, and I've experienced this black figure at the killing fields many times. And another time that I encountered this black figure, I was walking up the center ridge. It's this huge, I call it a mountain, but it's a big ridge that separates the two giant fields, and it cuts in the middle of David's property. And I was walking up the backside of it. There's a trail back there, and when I looked back, I saw this black figure jump across the trail, and that's all I saw. Like, I kept looking through the woods and I didn't see it anymore. Another time I was with Adam and we walked the entire perimeter of the property. But when we got to that backside of David's place where I said he looked up, or he looked down and I looked up and I saw the black figure, we were coming from the other direction. Adam and I were on another trip. And I saw this black thing. It looked like a black lemur, like a monkey, like ran into the woods. I have no idea still to this day what the heck that was, but it was definitely strange. Another time, David's granddaughter was on the side-by-side with him. I wasn't there when this happened. And David said that she saw this black figure, and the way she described it is exactly to a T what I experienced on the property. So that was definitely strange. And to hear somebody else describe something that I never told them about exactly like what I had seen is definitely strange. And it confirmed for me, it was confirmation as to what I experienced. So this black figure has been seen, and it's just one of those things that you can't put a finger on. You don't know if you actually saw it. And I always describe it like, I don't know, like those old cartoons where the figure pops up on one screen, and when it disappears, it pops up on the other side. Boom. There it is. Disappears. Now it's over here. I don't know. It's kind of like a shadow person. That's the best way I can describe it. That's like anytime that I think I got a good look at it, it almost reminds me of a shadow person, but it's displaying Bigfoot activity is the best way I can explain what I had seen. But yeah, from strange smells, wood knocks, unexplained lights, gifts, strange black figures, there was a lot going on. Anytime I go to the killing fields, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot going on, but each day one thing happens. And when you leave there and you look back, you think to yourself, wow, there's a lot more going on than what I had previously thought. But another thing was David's son was up there at the campground, like I told you guys before. It was him and another friend, and he actually had his girlfriend there. And the first thing that transpired there, I think David's son left some apples. He left them on a stump where I've left gifts in the past, but the apples went missing. The other guy said it was probably raccoons, but David's son, didn't write it off because he's had strange experiences up there in that same spot, that same camper, the same campground. And the next thing that unfolded was, I don't know if it was like 10 o'clock at night, give or take, and his girlfriend began to hear tap, 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 tap on the window. And I think before that, she heard something hitting the propane tank, like ting, 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 ting. And then something began to tap on the window, tap, 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 which is strange. And everyone up there at the campground has had things happen that they can't explain, whether they write it off and they say it's a mountain lion or raccoons. They have things that have happened that they don't know what it was that did it. David's son has seen the lights. He saw him floating around one of the dead cows at the cow graveyard where David takes the dead cattle on the back of the property. He saw the lights floating around the dead cow. Another time he had the awning out on the camper, and he said it was like big hands rubbing that awning, like it was just feeling it, which is strange. And Bigfoot are known to do that. I don't know what to make of it. The whole time I was hunting, I just kept thinking, man, I hope I don't see a cryptid creature walk across that field, because I'll tell you why. Because I pulled out my camera. I was going to try to film this adventure. I had a full battery, and I started talking, and a few seconds later it went from full battery down to zero, which was weird. There's a lot of strange activity happening in the killing fields on those ridges, and it just seems like whatever it is draining batteries. I did fly the drone when I was out there, and I have some horrible news for you guys. I ended up missing a few deer. There was an issue with the firearm. I can't figure it out. It's not feeding the bullets correctly. I think it's scuffing up the bullets as it's loading it into the chamber, and I think those bullets somehow messed up my barrel. I got a new scope, got it lined up, and then finally when I get somewhat of a pattern, like there's not precision there. The next shot's like way high, way low. I let the barrel cool down because I know it shoots differently if it's a hot barrel compared to a cold barrel, and the new scope did not fix the issue, so I ended up ordering a completely different one, a different boomstick. But by now it's too late. I'm gonna have to rely on bow hunting and the upcoming muzzleloader season. But anyways, I flew the drone. I have some really bad news for you guys. I was looking for one of the deer that I missed. I flew the drone all over the place. I had about 20 something percent left on the battery, and as I was bringing the drone back, I saw a bunch of deer, and I saw two bucks sparring in a field. They were fighting not too far away from me. Like, it's the same field that I have my camper in, so maybe like 200 yards away. And it went from 20 something percent on the battery down to 17%. And I'm filming those two bucks, and I'm thinking, man, that's weird. The battery's really dropping. I'm going to film this and I'm going to bring it back and land it because the drone's right there. Like, it is right there. And as soon as it drops down to 17% and that thought crosses my mind, I'm going to wrap things up. It goes from 17% down to 10%. Then all of a sudden the alarm's flashing. It's saying critical battery. I'm like, weird. Something's going on. I'm going to land this drone right now. And as soon as I say I'm going to land this drone right now, the drone just falls out of the sky. And in the distance I hear it landed in a tree, and it completely messed up the drone, which was a kick in the nuts, an uppercut in the stomach, and it was just a bad day. I missed a nice buck, crashed my drone, and even when it was in the tree, it still said I had 9% left on the battery. 9%. That's still enough battery to operate and land the drone, so I feel like the numbers on the drone are not accurate, and I'm just not satisfied. I sent the drone back, but the bad luck continues. It's been sitting in the same spot on UPS's website, like the same city in Missouri, and it hasn't moved. And that was last week, and I checked this week, it's still sitting there. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, they're going to lose my drone. I'm freaking out. Every door keeps slamming. Any opportunity that opens up, just boom, just slams in my face, slaps me across the face, and I don't know what to do. I can't give up because I feel like if I give up, things are going to get worse. Actually, I know they will. So I just keep rolling through the punches, and I just keep getting kicked in the stomach. And anything good that happens, the door just slams shut. Lately, a lot of people have been contacting me, and I haven't been able to do podcasts. Like, everybody cancels, everyone ghosts me. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I just keep going because I don't know. That's all I can really do. I do want to say that I appreciate David for everything that he did on this trip. He spent a lot of money. I mean, he would drive me on his side-by-side to my hunting stand back and forth day after day. And he did this out of the kindness of his heart. And I'm lost for words. I feel horrible for missing those deer, and everything that David did was just amazing. The reason he would drive me on his side-by-side to my hunting stand is because it's impossible to walk that far all the way to that area without spooking every single deer. All those deer are bedded up on those ridges, and they're watching those fields. I've tried walking through there before, and they just blow left and right. They're all alerting the rest of the herd. And when they know you're there, they're not coming out. Maybe a few will come out, but even when they're feeding, they just keep looking in your direction. Deer are extremely smart. And not only that, like, if you walk that entire distance, you're leaving a huge scent line. So when they come out and they walk across that scent line, they're going to know that something's not right, and they're getting out of there. But yeah, it amazes me how intelligent deer are. It seemed like when it was time to feed, all the deer would come out from vast distances away, and they all knew when to come out. It's almost like the deer would call each other and say, hey, we're going to go out and eat at the food plot. You want to come? Sure, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And essentially it's almost like they had a hive mind similar to Doberman, and they all know when to come out. And a lot of people have theorized about that. Maybe it's barometric pressure changing, thermals dropping and rising, the moon. But to me, it seems like they have a sixth sense, and deer are extremely intelligent. And that lets you know that the Sasquatch have this ability. They have this hive mind where they know if you're in the forest without seeing you, hearing you, smelling you. They just know. And it's pretty cool to see that. And one day when I was hunting out there, David came and picked me up on the side-by-side, and he said, there are a ton of deer at the house. And I was like, really? And we drove over there, and right next to his house, I kid you not, there was like 50 deer. Who knows? Maybe there was like 80. It was covered in deer. And I told David, it's almost like they all got the memo from miles away. And it's wild how they all knew to meet at this time at this location. It just blew my mind, because I'm hunting way back there where the food plot is in the wilderness, and I've seen a few deer, but all the deer are over there by David's place. And yeah, imagine the ability that the Sasquatch have. They could be all miles away, and they all know when to meet up, what to do if someone's in trouble, if someone's in their area. And it's absolutely incredible the abilities that animals have. I feel like they're able to know you're there without seeing you, smelling you, hearing you, and they just have a sixth sense. And a lot of people have theorized that possibly we have an aura, a magnetic energy, a frequency that our bodies put off. Obviously there's electricity, or else our heart wouldn't beat. And animals are able to pick up on that. There is a company, I think it's called Hex Suit. They make camouflage clothing that blocks your electrical magnetic field. And Adam from the Half Inch Wrench crew actually got me a suit, and we've used it a few times, but we don't know if it's worked or not. We'd have to use it a lot more to actually really know, but it's definitely an excellent theory. And speaking of Adam from the Half Inch Wrench crew, I have some horrible news that I wanted to talk about. The other night, Adam's house caught on fire, and his entire house burnt down to nothing. And it's just absolutely devastating to see somebody go through something so horrible. The good news is they all got out of there safely. Adam, his girlfriend Brittany, the kids, all the dogs. And yeah, I'm lost for words. I can't imagine what he's going through. And apparently the fire started in the basement. The fire department went there, put out the fire, and when the fire department left, the house caught back on fire, and then that's when it burnt down all the way to nothing. And yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a PayPal donate specifically for Adam and his family. So if you guys want, look in the link down below. You can donate some money. This will help him with clothes, food, and to get back on his feet. And it couldn't have happened at the worst time. I mean, the day that his house caught on fire is when the temperature here just went whoosh. And I mean, it was in the teens, in the low 20s. And yeah, it's just completely devastating. And to see somebody go through such a hard time is just awful. And the best thing we can do is offer our kindness and anything that we can do to help them get through this. So if you guys can donate 50 cents, a couple bucks, $5, or if you want to donate more, feel free to do so. Everything will go towards Adam's family, and I'm going to do my part and just help them out any way I can, whether it's financially, emotionally, mentally. I mean, that's all we can really do. So I appreciate everyone for watching the channel, and we're going to get into the drone footage. I'm going to show you guys the wildlife that I seen while I was there. And until the next investigation, you guys be safe, stay curious, and watch your backs out in the forest.